Over the last several months, I've been deep in the writing process for my first book. And if I'm honest, it's required more of me than almost anything I've ever worked on professionally. Between running businesses, homeschooling kids, trying to finish a manuscript I'm truly proud of, I've had to make some difficult decisions about where my focus, my time, and my energy go. And this week, instead of just bringing you another traditional episode, I thought I'd pull back the curtain and share what life has really looked like behind the scenes lately because every one of us goes through seasons where it feels like the demands are simply greater than our capacity. And the question isn't whether you'll have to make trade offs, it's whether you'll make them intentionally. So today I'm sharing choices that I've made, what I have refused to compromise, what I have intentionally let go of, and the lessons that this season has reinforced for me. And my hope in all of this is that it gives you permission to think differently about your own busy season. So here we go. Here's today's episode. Welcome to Wellness for High Performers, where ambitious people discover the path to sustainable wellness that actually feels good so they can build the dream without burning out. I'm your host, Erica Jones. I'm a wellness strategist and entrepreneur, and I help high performers create massive momentum by weaving wellness into their daily life. I am not really super prepared for this episode. I'm going to be honest with you. I am jumping in here and just getting things going right away. The reality is that this has been one of the most demanding years I've had in a long time. If you listen to the last episode, I shared that we had another water issue in our house. And so, after finishing a previous water issue that happened in December of last year, we had another one that showed up the day before we were scheduled to leave for a vacation. And so, it really created a lot of disruption in our lives. But not only that, it's been a very cognitively demanding season because I've been working on this book. I am so proud of this book. I cannot wait to share it with you because I feel like it fills in a gap in the wellness literature space that hasn't been filled. And it's an answer for high capacity, high performing women, high achieving women, ambitious women who are struggling with their health, with their wellness. And so the manuscript is coming along. I've built so many ideas and frameworks and concepts into this book, and a lot of practical, tangible strategies that I think are going to be really beneficial just based on my experience over the years. And so I can't wait to get it out there. I'd say it's probably 80% complete. But I've really been pushing lately because I needed to get this manuscript over to the first editor, the content editor, who really takes a look at the ideas in the book and says, okay, does this book conceptually make sense? And so getting the manuscript ready for her in the midst of a recent water damage issue that kind of threw a curveball has been tough. And so the reality is that when life gets full, we can't do everything to 100%. So, my reality the last few months, and certainly the last several weeks when this whole water thing, the second one came up, is Erica, what are you going to protect and what are you willing to adjust during this time? And so the thing about busy seasons or when we're feeling pressed with respect to our capacity is that these busy seasons reveal our priorities. They tell us about what we value and where our attention is focused. Because I can't do everything to the same capacity, to the fullest capacity all the time in a season like this. So there's decisions that have to be made. And if I'm trying to do everything, I'm trying to do it all and do it all to the same degree of energy and effort that I have in a not crazy busy season, then nothing gets prioritized properly. And so, even beyond prioritization, the question that I've been asking myself lately is what deserves my best energy? And that's a question that is really important when you have so many competing needs and there's only a handful of things that you can provide with your best level of energy. So that's a thing that I have had to work through, especially over the last few weeks. And this isn't something that's foreign to me. I go through these busy seasons all throughout the year, as I'm sure you do too. Life happens, things come up, and there's pressure that gets put on us to manage it all. And so I have had to be very clear about what I refuse to compromise. And I want to share a little bit about what that looks like, because what I'm not saying is, hey, when life gets really full and you feel a lot of pressure and you're limited in your energy and your capacity, hey, keep all the plates spinning at the same speed and doing everything like you normally would. I think that's what a lot of high performing women try to do. And that's a quick way to get to burnout. And so I think a more effective way is to look at our energy and direct it to what deserves our best. And so for me, there's areas again that I refuse to compromise. And so one of them is my faith and my family. Those two things are the most important to me. So if all of this, if I never publish a book, if we never do another great thing with our businesses, like all of that falls away, these are the things that matter most in life to me. And so my faith is what keeps me grounded. It keeps me strong. So when I am in the midst of a day and I feel a sense of overwhelm or there's too much on my plate, that level of faith and a prayer to God helps me to feel grounded and to know that I'm not alone and that there's always help available for me. So that for me is number one. Number two is the family. Like I said, it doesn't matter to me if I have a best-selling book, if we make billion-dollar businesses. The family is not intact and healthy and flourishing. None of these other successes or endeavors matter at all to me. So these two things, faith and family that go together, these are the foundation of my life. So there always has to be enough energy for those two. And then everything else gets prioritized from there. And so beyond that, there's another few things that I have made sure not to compromise. And some of this is going to be very foundational, but it's so important because I understand now that my energy is a currency and yours is too. And so if I look at energy that way, I recognize that it's an asset. It's something that I can invest or it's something that I can waste, similar to money. It's a currency. And so instead of viewing energy as something that I have or don't have, that's how most of the world looks at energy. You either have it or you don't have it. I look at my energy as something that I can invest. And if I'm looking to make an investment, I'm looking to get an ROI. And so when I put my focus and energy into something, what I'm looking at on the back end is what is the return that I'm going to get for this energy investment. And some activities have a way higher return than others. And so, especially when I feel like I'm knee deep in a very demanding season, the volume of activities that I can invest in substantially decreases. But then those activities that I do invest in, those need to have a very high ROI. And so the things that I've made sure to invest my energy in, especially right now in this very demanding season, is number one, my nutrition. I need my brain firing right now. I cannot afford to waste even one day or 1 hour feeling mentally sluggish, brain fog, inability to focus, distracted. I don't have time for that right now. I have got to get into my office and produce the best work that I mentally can do. And in order to do that, I have to show up with a nourished brain that is properly resourced so that I'm not crashing out hours later. And so by focusing on nutrition, it helps me to have this reserve of stable energy so that I'm not falling into fatigue. I feel at my best mentally, and that helps me to optimize to produce the best work that I can do. This isn't just something that I do during cognitively demanding seasons. It's something that I do all the time. This is a bedrock principle for me as a high performer and someone who prioritizes wellness in every aspect of my life. Another thing that I'm unwilling to compromise, similar to nutrition, is hydration. Hydration is so important because our bodies are made up of water and our bodies need water to thrive. They need a certain amount to thrive. And so it could have been easy for me to just dope up on caffeine, if you will. And no judgment if you're a caffeine lover. I know a lot of people are. But for me, if that becomes the thing that I'm relying on to get me through the day, then that has a cost physiologically for me that I'm not willing to pay. And so I see hydration and nutrition working together where my energy is focused here. That is a huge return on investment. So while some might say, you've got all this stuff going on, just DoorDash every night, forget about dinner, forget about groceries, just do the bare minimum, have pizza every night if you need to, which I totally could have done that. But I chose to invest my energy in good, healthy meals and groceries and making sure that my fridge is stocked with the resources that I need to feel good. So, those are two things that I didn't compromise. Another thing I refused to compromise was my evening wind down, my time after 5 o'clock, where I say I've had enough of work, we're done working, it's time to be with family. It's time to recover. It's time to replenish yourself and to rest after all of the work that you've done today. This one is such a huge one for me because there was a time and season in my life early on when Isaac and I were first married when I would totally just work, 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 work all the time. I'm an achiever. And when you're an achiever by nature, work is easy to do. It's not pain, it's not something that feels daunting. It can be very rewarding and energizing. And so I would work in the evenings, I would work early in the morning, I would work whenever I felt like it. But the thing that I've learned over many years is that protecting the space after work, having a stopping point is important. It's not just important, it's essential. One thing I've recognized is that mentally, my brain can only handle so much cognitive load in a day. So after a certain number of hours, my creative capacity dwindles. And that's not unique to me. That's every human being. Cal Newport in his book Deep Work talks about how people who are at their highest capacity often only can produce 4 hours of deep work every single day. And so when I think about my day and what I'm doing with the writing, I can write and be in that creative mode for about 4 hours, 3.5 to 4 hours. I usually do a lot of that in the morning before lunch. And then after lunch, I've got to switch to something else. I can still be working on a marketing plan or in other businesses that we run. I'm still working, but I'm not placing that cognitive demand on myself. And I really, I honestly feel it the last couple of weeks because I've really been pushing my mental capacity each day. I feel a little bit of that fatigue at the end. It hits different than on a normal day. And so that's why protecting the time after work has been so very important to me. And a lot of people will be like, well, you're trying to get this manuscript done. Just work in the night, just work into the evening. I don't do that. I don't do that for a few reasons. One, because I like to keep my workout protected. That's what I do after I work. It's kind of like a release of the tension of the day. I can just breathe and focus on getting in my body versus being in my brain, if that makes sense. The other thing is that we have family dinner every single night. We're very blessed. We work from home, we homeschool our kids, we get to do pretty much every meal together. And so I cherish that time and I want to be with my family. The other thing is that I need mental recovery time and you do too. We all absolutely need this. So if I am working hard during the day, I'm doing creative work before lunch, I am then switching to maybe more administrative work, more strategic business work after lunch. And then I'm doing a workout, doing dinner, and then I jump back into business mode. My brain doesn't really have any time to recover. That's a taxing schedule. And a lot of people think it's normal to do that. And we say, okay, well, I've got a deadline coming up. And I get it. Sometimes you got to work into the night if you have a hard stop. But preserving that wind down for me has really been huge because it allows me to decompress. It allows me to get out of the ideas, out of the concepts of the book. And something happens when those ideas just kind of sit and marinate. I'm not working on them. It's almost like there's a subconscious process happening in the background where everything's getting unconsciously refined and optimized so that when I get back into the manuscript and I read the work that I did yesterday, I'm like, oh, let's tweak that. Let's fine tune it. It's almost like my brain has subconsciously updated the cognitive process that I was in the day before. And so I want to protect that, not just because I need the rest, I need the relaxation, I need the recovery, absolutely in the evening, but because it's better for the work as well. The other things that I did that I think really helped me was I got out in the sun. Being in an office or being indoors working on something like this, it takes a lot of indoor time. So I would get outside, I'd walk the dog in the middle of the day. It's hot here in Georgia, so I was definitely sweating out there. But I would rather just take that break and deal with the heat than feel like I'm stuck inside all day and not getting the energy from the sunlight. So I would take those breaks throughout the day. I'd work outside when I could. It's just been a bit too unbearable to do that beyond the early morning hours. But when I could, I would do that. And so I stayed consistent there. I protected my workout routine. I made sure that, hey, even though I'm working on this book, I need to get everything done. That routine stayed protected. And that was really important to me because I've worked so hard to build a consistent habit over the years. That was something I was not willing to give up for a busy season. So I stuck with that as well. But I will say that I didn't protect everything. So this is where most people get stuck. We assume that we have to keep operating at the same capacity during a very demanding season as what we do in a not demanding season. Your seasons are probably always demanding as are mine, but you get what I'm saying. There's this flux of there's this ebb and flow of okay, this season feels really manageable. And oh my gosh, this season feels like crazy, wild, super demanding. So, what do we do when the season changes and it feels like it's hard to hold everything? Well, you have to choose what you're going to adjust. So while I did not skip my workouts, I did change my rhythm and what I actually did. So typically what I'm doing like in a week that is not super demanding is I will do structured workouts 3 days a week. These are usually where I'm weight training, doing Pilates. I like to get my heart rate really up there into like zone 4, zone 5 for a good bit of the workout. And then I will do walks on the other 2 days. And so, with everything that's been going on this week and working through the water damage and all of that, I just felt like cognitively, physiologically, a couple of days this week, I couldn't do my typical workout, like pushing my body really hard, getting into that deep sweat. It just didn't sit right. It didn't feel right. So, one of the days I just went on a walk. One of the days, instead of doing my traditional workout, I worked through a bunch of stretches because my body felt tense from being at my desk. Even though I have a standing desk, I can move about a bit and have a treadmill in my office. You're still at a desk, you're working on a computer, and that puts a certain level of strain on the body. And so I gave myself permission to say, you know what? I'm not going to do a hit training workout today. I am going to do what I feel like my body needs, which is stretch, mobility. And it was the best call because I felt better after it. Yeah, I didn't do the thing that I normally do. I didn't check that box, but I gave my body what I needed. And that was the right call. The other thing that I chose to do was just step back from some of the day to day business in our doctor coaching company. It's not that I just like checked out and stopped leading and, was irresponsible in my role in our company, but I stopped trying to urgently solve everything all at one time. So typically what happens is I'm very available for my team. I'm very available for problem solving and getting on meetings with people and just driving initiatives forward. I'm very available for that kind of stuff. This week, I've said, you know what? This is not urgent, and I'm going to choose to acknowledge this person's request and let them know that I'll get back to them next week. And giving myself that permission to say, you know what? You don't have to be as available to everyone as what you normally are was really freeing for me. I am obviously not going to let fires rage in the business. I'm not going to go stick my head in the sand and pretend like I'm on a vacation or something and can't be reached. But I also am not going to treat with urgency things that are not urgent, things that can wait until next week. So that was another area that I felt needed an adjustment. I also delayed conversations that I felt like were going to be too mentally or emotionally taxing. There was someone that requested to have a conversation with me, multiple people actually, requesting to have conversations with me this week about whatever. One of them, a person was upset. And so I had to make a decision in that moment because my thought process was, I need to go into my office right now and be working on this manuscript because the request came to me early in the day. It came before I actually got into my office, and I was faced with the decision like, okay, do I go and get on a call with this person and we talk through everything that they're going through? They're upset about something going on. Or do I stick with what I know I need to accomplish today, which is getting through this manuscript? Because I knew that if I got on a call with this person, there was a high probability that this wasn't going to be a short call. And this person's emotional state was such that it could affect how I showed up in the next hour or the rest of the morning or whatever, because we've all been there before trying to be in conversation with somebody. And if the conversation is mentally or emotionally draining, it takes something out of you. It takes energy. And in that moment, that was not something that I was willing to give away. I said, you know what? I am choosing this project right now. Not that that person didn't matter, they absolutely did. But I said, let me revisit this. Let's have this conversation later when I'm in a place where I have the capacity to give you my full attention and my time because it's not right now. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned over the years is understanding what I'm responsible for and what others are responsible for. Just because someone shows up and they're upset and they're emotional doesn't mean that I have to drop everything right now to go solve their emotional upset. I've taken that strengths finder test before. You may have seen it before. I think Malcolm Gladwell is the one behind it, but he wrote a whole book about it. I think it's called Strengths Finder. But the book tells you about what your strengths are. One of my top strengths is responsibility. So we all know, like with every strength, there's kind of like a shadow side. So with responsibility, you can take on a lot and you're very dependable and can be relied on, and people look to you for answers. But you can also be someone who owns things that are not yours to own. And so, one of the things that I have been awake to this year is just owning other people's emotions that are not my responsibility. So I've had to let go of that and recognize that it's okay for me to prioritize what I need to do in the moment and then say, hey, let me talk to you later when I have the capacity to give you the best of me because it's not right now. And so instead of saying yes out of guilt to this person to help them try to resolve whatever the emotional upset was, I just politely said to them, I can't give this the attention it deserves right now. Let's link up later in the day. So it's not like I'm avoiding responsibility. I'm not saying I don't care what your problem is. I'm not saying good luck with that. It's about respecting my own capacity. And I think that's really important. And so that's one of the things that I've been learning throughout the year, and learning to let go is I'm not responsible for everybody's emotions. So that allowed me the freedom to come into my office, work on my book and whatever I needed to do that morning without feeling guilty. So I think one of the biggest myths, to just kind of round this out and wrap this up, One of the biggest myths that we believe as high performing women is that we have to keep all the plates spinning at the same speed all the time. And that if we're going through a demanding or difficult season and we decide to set a plate down or more, multiple plates, and you just say, hey, I'm setting this down right now, that we feel guilty about it. And we feel like we're somehow missing the mark and we're not living up to our expectations or others' expectations. And I'm just saying that that's a bunch of garbage and that your energy and your ability to show up well in the world is important. And the only way to protect that during a highly demanding season is to get intentional about where you're choosing to direct your energy because not everything can have it. You have to choose what you're going to invest your energy into. This is a central theme that I've been landing on in this book that I'm writing. A lot of it is about energy investment. How do we prioritize what matters most? How do we align our lives to our values? And doing that all with a framework of wellness. So, if you're in a demanding season right now and you can relate to a little bit of what I said, hopefully not the water damage issue. Gosh, I don't wish that on anyone. But if you can relate to feeling like, oh my goodness, life feels a little bit overwhelming right now, think about what are the things that actually deserve protection. What deserves your best energy right now? And what have you been afraid to loosen your grip on? Whether it's temporarily or something that maybe you need to drop permanently and you've just felt guilty or like you just can't let it go. So, these two questions might change the way you experience your next few weeks. So, I hope that this episode has been helpful for you today. I appreciate you hanging with me and letting me do more of an unpolished, unprepped episode. Sometimes those are the best ones. But overall, I hope this gave you a fresh perspective or maybe a practical insight that you'll bring into your daily life. And if you want more support, more ideas from me, head to elevays.com. That's ELEV as in victory, AYS.com. And join me inside the Elite Edge. This is my weekly inspiration email for high performers like you who want to thrive while they achieve. And until next time, make time for what matters and keep showing up as the high performer you're created to be.